Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So we are now to the second category. It says والمساكين, and the unfortunates. Right? So we have to give to the poor and to the unfortunate. So it says, what is the definition of somebody who is miskeen? وهو من له ما يسد مسدا من حاجته بملك أو منفق أو كسب حلال على ما مر ولا يكفيه الكفاية اللائقة بحاله ولا يكفيه الكفاية اللائقة بحاله مما مر كمن يحتاج لعشرة وعنده سبعة. Okay, so what does it mean? It means somebody who makes more than half but less than what he needs. Right? Less than what he needs, but it's more than half of what he needs. So be milkin, either that he owns property, he owns things, he owns food, so he has his own house, he has bags of food, he has things, but it's not enough. Oh, munfiq, uh, or that somebody's supporting them. Oh, kasb halal, or he's earning, right? He earns and he makes money, but he makes less than he needs. And so he says, when he says it suffices him, وَالْمُرَادُ أَلَّا يَكْفِيهِ الْعُمَرَ الْغَالِبِ. So this person, for example, he is disabled or elderly and not able to work, and he is 45 years old. So this disabled person who is 45 years old is not able to earn, and he has nobody to support him, and he has enough savings to last him another year or 2 years. So this person is considered faqir and considered, or miskeen, depending on what fraction it is, because he only has enough to last him another year. So in 1 year, he will not have any money, and he will not be able to eat or drink or whatever. So when we say he has enough, it means he has enough for his al-umr al-ghalib, how many years he would normally live, right? And in the Shafi school, the kind of general estimation is 60 years. So we say you're 45, you're anticipated to live another 15 years, you only have enough money for the next 2 years, in which case you don't have enough money. فإن زاد عمره عليه أعطي سنة. Okay, what if he's now 60? Then he's only given year by year. Right? So he's now 61. So then we say, okay, I need another year because I don't have any income or anything. So he's given sanatan. So he says, وَمَنْ لَهُ عَقَارٌ ينقص دخله عن كفايته ففقير أو مسكين. Somebody who has property, and this property brings in money, brings in revenue, but that is less than the amount that he needs, then this person is faqir, right? So I have property, but I'm not able to work. Okay, he has property, but he's not able to work. So the money that's coming in, that is, it's not enough. So this person is considered faqir or miskeen, depending on if it's less than half or more than half. He says, however, نعم إن كان نفيسا ولو باعه حصل بثمنه ما يكفيه دخله للعمر غالب لزمه بيعه. So, well, how about this? How about if you had a house, okay, and it was a very, very expensive house, and when you rent it out or you use whatever it is, the uses of it, it doesn't make enough money for it. However, if you sold it, you would have enough money. So the value of the property would cover you for the rest of your life, right? لزمه بيعه, you have to sell it, right? He says, however, so this is talking about a luxury, a large property, a large piece of land, whatever it is, right? ولا يمنع الفقر والمسكنة مسكنه الذي يحتاجه لسكناه أو لسكن ممو ممم ممونة ممونه, difficult to pronounce. He says, okay, well, what about my house itself, the house that I need to live in? So here we're talking about a large property or something that's expensive. What about the property that I need myself just to stay in? So I own my house. Does owning your house mean you're not poor? The answer is no. So if it is his house that he needs, this is a house, there's me and my three kids, and this is the size house we need. We need to have at least 2 bedrooms. You have to have at least this, at least that, right? These basic things that they need. Owning it does not mean you're not poor. وَإِنْ اعْتَادَ السُّكْنَ بِأُجْرَةٍ, even if it's fine for him to rent. So the fact that you own your house does not mean that you're not zakat eligible. Okay? So the previous scenario is talking about you have properties, you have a very large property, right? You're renting these things out. But here is you have your house. Here's an apartment that you live in. Here's your house that you live in. If you sold it, you would not. You could keep going, right? You would so you sell your house and start renting, and you know, just you could pay for yourself. You're still considered faqir, right? Hmm. Similarly, his wife's jewelry, right? Or a woman's jewelry, right? A woman has jewelry, right? So this is considered the basic needs. So she's not obliged to sell all of her but jewelry before she becomes poor. One slave, if you need a slave. Um, the books that you need. Even if you need them very occasionally, right? ولا كتبه المحتاج إليها ولو نادرا. So he has a huge library. Okay, huge library. Does he have to sell his library? Right. So he said, do you ever use these books? So yeah. ولو نادرا, even just occasionally, yes. So that's considered things that you need. You're not obliged to sell those. كمرة في السنة, for example, once a year. ولو لطب أو تاريخ أو وعظ, even if it's not, if it's something to do with medicine or something to do with history or something, the history uh, Antakya in the 19 from 1900 to 1910, right? Administrative changes, right? So, but it could be something else. What if it's like um, introduction to Cantonese grammar? I have 500 volumes of books on Cantonese grammar, and I'm not learning Cantonese, right? So in which case, that's considered excess. You don't need these things. Okay. So now talking about different volumes of books. Da, 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 da. And then he goes on to something else. He says, وَلَا يَمْنَعُهُمَا مَالُهُ الْغَائِبِ لِمَرْحَلَتَيْنِ. Right? So again, we're talking about physical money. He has cash, physical money, but it is traveling distance away. Right? He lives in San Francisco, and he has his gold bullion in Los Angeles. Okay? So لا يمنعهما, he's still considered poor. He's still considered when he has gold bullion in another country because it's not here, right? Because it's not here. um, ولا حاضر حيل بينه وبينه, right? Or there's money, but he can't access it. So his bank account's been frozen. He's a millionaire, but his bank account's been frozen. ولا المؤجل, or money that he can't access, right? I can't access this money. This money is going to be given to me, but later on. لأنه معسر. Uh, okay. Then he mentions an point we mentioned before. He says ولو اشتغل عن الكسب بفرض كفاية كعلم شرعي أو آلة له أو صلاة جنازة فهو فقير. So somebody who is able to work, he is able to work, but were he to work, he would not fulfill a communal obligation, such as what? Such as علم شرعي, right? أو آلة له, or something that is instrumental to that. Something that's instrumental to that. So, for example, he's studying Islamic finance, and finance is part of that, or mathematics is part of that, or he's a da'i and he needs to improve his English. So this person, for example, he is, there's a sheikh that's been sent from some country, and he's teaching now in Peru, and his in Peru they speak Spanish, right? Not Portuguese. So anyway, so Spanish, and so he's doing Spanish classes as well, right? So this is alatin lahu, part of the what is needed to fulfill this communal obligation is his Spanish classes, for example. So he's busy doing Spanish classes, right? Or this person is studying medicine, right? And assuming that the quota for people in that field of medicine is not enough, right? So let's say in America we need I don't know 5,000 consultant gynecologists, right? And there are 10,000. So now you say, no, I want to become a consultant gynecologist. That is not a fard kifaya. Why? Because we have enough. But what if we don't have enough, right? I want to research AI. Is that a fard kifaya? Yes. But are enough people researching AI? Probably, right? So researching into AI is fard kifaya, no problem. But if there's enough people, then it's not fard kifaya. The kifaya has been fulfilled, right? So you can't just do, it's not just anything that is a societal need. It is something that is a societal need and is not being fulfilled, right? And is not being fulfilled. Um, so it could be education, it could be training, it could be being a policeman, it could be being a firefighter, it could be being a teacher at school, it could be being a doctor, etc. فيعطى به إن لم يكتسب معه وأمكن تحصيله. He says, so in which case he will be given money um, unless he works. So what if he's fulfilling a communal obligation and working, in which case he's not given anything? That's number one. And number two, وَأَمْكِنَ تَحْصِيلُهُ, and he's actually able to do that. So we spoke about this before. In the Islamic paradigm, education is an obligation, it is not a right. Okay? So education is an obligation, it is not a right. So, my daughter, my son wants to become a mufti. He has a right to become a mufti. That's not true. The ummah needs muftis, and is the obligation, it is the obligation to have enough muftis, right? Enough people who understand the Sharia in detail in order to solve people's problems. So that's an obligation, it's not a right. So what if you aren't good enough, right? What if you're not good enough? Do you have a right to study tafsir and receive zakat? No. So Islamic education historically has always been elitist, right? It's always been elitist. It's not about gender, and it's not about race, and it's not about this and about that. It's elitist, meaning it's really hard, and the pedagogies, the curricula was always based on basically teaching really intelligent people, right? Simple as that. It's not based on teaching the masses. It's not based on mass education, right? And in general, mass education doesn't work. So we have a problem today, which is some places have shifted to mass education. So, for example, university education is, if I go to university and study Sharia, is that an education? That is not an education. It is possible that you could say your education began in your master's when you had a small circle of students and there was genuine, interaction. But when you have, I was one of 500 people, right? So I remember a particular situation. Um, when I was in Jordan, I used to attend occasionally the classes of Sheikh Abdul Malik Saadi. So Sheikh Abdul Malik Saadi, he was like effectively the Mufti of Iraq, and so I used to attend his classes here and there. And so I was working my biography, or somebody was asking, for this website, and uh, um, I was gonna mention that I had studied with the sheikh, and uh, one of my teachers, he said, Fareed, you can't say that you studied with that sheikh. So why? Because you didn't study with him. You attended his classes. There's a difference, right? There's a fundamental difference between studying with somebody and, oh yeah, I used to listen to their lectures. You know, it's not the same at all. So um, so what I'm trying to say is education, um, Islamic education has always been basically private, meaning it's a small group of people actually discussing topics with a teacher. So perhaps in a master's or PhD relationship, maybe you can call that's education. But otherwise, mass education, which involves dumbing down education and making it easier, was not something that's ever done, right? Because it's not a right, it's an obligation. So maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make you that intelligent, which is totally fine. That means you're not responsible to do it, which is great. It's like saying, Alhamdulillah, I was disabled, I wasn't obliged to go in jihad. You know, I wasn't obliged to go and do things that other people have to do. Okay. So, وَأَمْكَنَ تَحْصِيلُهُ, it's something that you could actually do, right? Many people cannot do fiqh. So they don't understand it. Even if they did 1,000 classes, they don't have the mind for it. They don't have the mind for nahu. They don't have the mind for, they don't understand things. They don't have that technical mind, which is totally fine, right? It's nothing to do with they're good or bad. But do they have now a right? Say, no, I want to, I have a right. Um, um, I think if you look at some of these GoFundMe things, like, oh, I need to find myself. So, fund me to go and find myself, right? Fund me to, whatever happened, I need to, whatever, so things like that. So it's not a personal thing. It is, here's this person. They are trying to fulfill this communal obligation by studying or achieving certain goals or researching something. And then they're trying to use that thing. And so this is for person is fulfilling a communal obligation, not just anybody doing something good. Um, So it says, أو بنوافل من صلاة أو غيره فلا إذ نفعه غير متعد. Very important. So it says, okay, what if I'm busy praying, right? So I've decided to not work because I want to pray. I just want to pray. I just want to fast. I just want to do Quran, right? Um, is this person considered faqir? The answer is no. Why? It's not a communal obligation, right? لا إذ نفعه غير متعد, because its benefit does not transcend in that individual. You're only benefiting yourself. Whereas somebody who is learning mathematics, somebody who is going to a country and helping set up an educational system, a healthcare system, whatever it is, this is someone who's doing something that benefits himself and benefits other people. And then he says, وَلَوْ احْتَاجَ لِنِكَاحٍ وَلَا شَيْءَ مَعَهُ فَيُعْطَى مَا يصرفه فيه والمكفي بنفقة نحو قريب غير فقير. So he says, if somebody needs to get married and they have no money, then they are given the money to get married. So not being able to get married means you are faqir, means you're poor. That's what it means. And it's also an important concept is many people go ahead, Badr.
You're only considered poor if it's only because of money, right? Not because you can't get married for whatever other reasons.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a person who
Mhm.
financially doesn't have the means to get married. Yeah.
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 Hmm.
So basically, because what we're saying is, you're saying, do you have your basic needs? So no, I don't. I'm not married. So can we do the same thing with a woman? Like, can we give her money because she's not married? You know, she doesn't need any money to get married, right? So for a man, it's like, oh, I can't afford to give mahar. I can't afford to do anything, right? So this person then is zakat eligible because he doesn't have his basic needs. Um, and he says, okay. ولو سقطت نفقة الزوجة بنشوز لم تعطى لقدرتها على النفقة برجوعها للطاعة. Right? If a woman lost her right to financial support from her husband, بنشوز, because of her quote unquote disobedience, right? She left the house. So there's this woman, um, she left the house like 6 months ago. Now she's asking for zakat. And so she said, why do you need zakat? So, because I don't have anybody to support me. Okay, why? Because my husband doesn't support me. Why? Because I left the house 6 months ago. Right? So we say, sister, just go home. Right? لم تعطى لقدرتها على النفقة برجوعها للطاعة. Right? Because she could receive her quote her nafaqa again by just going home. Right? Says, however, لو غاب المنفق ولم يترك منفقا ولا مالا أعطي قريبه وزوجته بالفقر والمسكنة. Okay, what if the husband has disappeared? This man has disappeared and his children don't have any money. So we said, I believe last week, that we give to the we give to the source, not to the person being provided for. Right? That's the principle. That's the default, right? Is that we're going to give him the zakat, not going to give them zakat, right? Because he supports them. Okay, but he's not here and there's no money there. We can give the wife herself zakat and we can give the children themselves zakat. And he says, وَيُسَنُّ لِلزَّوْجَةِ أَن تُعْطِيَ زَوْجَهَا مِنْ زَكَاتِهَا وَإِنْ أَنْفَقَهُ عَلَيْهَا. It is recommended for the wife to give her zakat to her husband, providing he's poor, of course, and even if he ends up spending that on her, right? So it's circular that she gave zakat to her husband, and then her husband supported her. That's kind of confusing, isn't it? right? But we look, it's two different things. So the money that she gave to him is zakah. The money that he gave to her is nafaqah. It's two different things, right? And so it's not circular, right? Go ahead, Musa.
Afwan, just to clarify, when we say giving zakat, we mean like the physical handing off, like, or with permission to like pay a bill or something from the husband, right? Like there has to be either a
There has to be
verbal
tamlik.
statement and or handing over.
So I don't know verbal so paying a bill for somebody, I don't know if that counts.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts. So because the idea is like this. So like let's say for example you come and show me all your bills and say I haven't paid rent and here's my warning from my landlord, okay? And I come and give you $10,000, okay? In zakat. The point is tamlik, meaning it's your money. You now go and buy a giant turnip for $10,000. The point is it's yours, right? You're not obliged to spend it on this or spend it on that. So like if she paid a bill as a zakat, I don't think that really counts.
Okay. Even if it's like with the permission of husband. So like for example, the husband says, "Hey, instead of paying me the money directly, you just pay rent this month," for example, with my permission. That's what I was thinking of.
I mean, I don't think so. As far
Okay.
as I don't think so. Wallahu.
Okay.
So yeah. Um. So when you say it's recommended, then so does that mean should we go and tell our wives? It's like, hey, it's recommended. You got all this money, and I'm struggling. Why is that? Why is that? Why could that be very bad?
You can be, I guess, it, if forcing or not forcing her, but like
Hmm.
coercing her in a way.
Hmm. So there's a difference, right? There's a difference between somebody freely giving you something as opposed to when they kind of feel coerced, right? So um, that applies with a loan, right? So uh, I lend Talib some money and he gives me the money back. And then I'm like, MashaAllah, thank you, Talib, for following the Sunnah. He's like, you're welcome. I said, MashaAllah, thank you for following the Sunnah, Talib. MashaAllah, the best, the Prophet ﷺ said, those who, the best of you are those who pay back the best, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you're following the Sunnah, MashaAllah. And he's like, just kind of scratching his head. I'm like, MashaAllah, thank you for playing for following the Sunnah and giving me more back than I even than I gave you. He's like, no, 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 I gave you the exact amount that I borrowed. I said, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah. Inshallah, next time you'll follow the Sunnah, right? And then he's like, I'm confused. And then I'm like, it's Sunnah to pay back more. It would be nice if you did that, please. It would be good. It means that you're a real Talib ilm and you're following the Sunnah. Da, 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 da. So he's like, Sheikh, are you actually asking me to pay back more? So yeah, okay, that's haram, right? As opposed, right? There's a big difference between the sunnah of paying back more versus the person kind of expecting it and making you feel that they expect it. Then it becomes riba, right? So, borrowing, sitting in someone's plate, taking someone's rights from them. Hey, are you eating the sandwich? Like, no. Do you mind if I eat the sandwich? Sure. Right? As opposed to making them feel awkward, right? So to give example of like asking to borrow money in with an Arab in front of his other Arab friends, right? So he's a wealthy Arab, right? And generosity is a cultural norm, and being cheap is not considered culturally acceptable. So now you're in front of everybody say, "Oh, so and so, can I borrow some money?" And he's like in front of all his friends, "No," like he can't really say no, right? It's awkward. Um, the new father-in-law asks the new son-in-law for some money in front of his daughter, or in front of this, or in front of that. It's like, it's an awkward situation. So they say ما أخذ بسيف الحياء فهو غصب. Whatever is taken at the gunpoint of awkwardness is considered theft. So people have to free, like, so she's like, yeah, I'm not pressured. I just want to do this. She's like, okay, sure. It's fine. Not a problem. Whatever it is, whatever rights involved. Similarly in this situation, right? In Nushuz, she's like, hey, listen, I just need to like be away for like 2 months. He's like, okay, but I don't have any money. He's like, okay, so can you keep supporting me even though I'm not going to be home for the next 2 months? So yeah, that's fine. Right. So, I'm sure there's many women, right? If not most women, سقطت نفقته, right? They don't deserve nafaqah, right? But a man who's from his shahama and his karam, he's like, yeah, it's okay. So I'm not going to be like not nickel and diming you on whether I support you or not, right? You're going through whatever you're going through, that's fine. I don't mind. You need to go for 2 months, that's fine. Just let me know. Let me know where you are at least, right? So, and let me know how I can help, or if you want me to call, or you don't want me to call, or whatever it is, you need space. Okay, we can, So as opposed to she's walked out and she's like, oh my God, if you were half of a man, you would support me even in this difficulty. And he just felt like pushed into it. I mean, right? So interestingly, that's wrong on both sides, right? So giving extra time, money, whatever it is, because of the sword of haya is wrong on both sides. What does that mean? That's wrong on both sides. Like there's a sandwich, right? And I wanted to eat it. And Badr says, Sheikh, in front of all my students, do you want this piece of dunya or should I take it? And then I'm like, it's okay, Badr, you can eat it, right? So I didn't want to give it to him. Okay, he only took it from me because it was awkward. So it was awkward. So his taking is wrong and my giving is wrong. Why is that the case?
Because it was coercion, right?
So your taking was coercion. You didn't take. There's no tib and nafs, right? The person didn't take with. He's not like happy to give it. Okay, but so why is my giving also wrong?
Because the intention is not there.
Yeah, and it's not a healthy relationship. So giving into coercion is also wrong. Using coercion is wrong. Giving into coercion is also wrong, right? You shouldn't be. That's not a healthy relationship at all. That you're being coerced into something like, okay, that's wrong. So you either give freely or withhold freely, right? And it's actually, it's a very, very bad situation to be in with anybody, with your spouse or with anybody else. That's not good. It's not noble. It's not charity. Charity is, this is my haqq. I am intentionally and actively giving up. It's okay. I give it up for the sake of Allah, right? Like I own the interaction, as opposed to I'm a victim of the circumstances. And in reality, giving into coercion is khawf al-khalq, right? Is a form of fearing other than Allah, which is not Islamic, if not haram, right? So you shouldn't be scared of your wife. You shouldn't be scared of your husband. You shouldn't be scared of, oh my God, this would be embarrassing or this would be awkward, right? No, it's like, this is the situation, right? Can you please, brother, I know I owe you this money, but please, I need more time. Either you say yes, meaning it's okay, or you say no, right? You don't give into the awkward situation, particularly when it results in harming other people, right? So it's very important and that's a very important point there. So anyway, we did that. Okay, makes sense, inshallah. So that what does it mean then? It means for the zakat given to a poor person could be a lot of money, right? So you're looking at this person. There's this guy who works in, he's 40, he has a family, and the kind of money that he can bring in is definitely not enough for where he lives, right? So if you think about it, in many countries, if not most, the way that they've set up the post-industrial revolution or whatever, even post-World War II um, household is that husband and wife both work. Meaning if only the man worked, it would not be enough. It would not be enough. So the way that it's set up, that means like most people are zakat eligible, right? Most people are zakat eligible, right? Talib, you're in Germany, correct?
Yes.
In Berlin?
No, Leverkusen, where the famous soccer team is from.
Okay, that I don't know about. Okay, fantastic. In Germany, in normal in a living in a city, can most people survive on one income?
I'm in a position where it's possible with my job, but I can't speak for other people, unfortunately. I'm
Uh,
in IT, so I like it's like easier for me, I think, but I don't know.
so,
I
but
think
let's
it's not that common that people like I don't now that I think about it, even people who like even do things like drive taxi and stuff like that, they don't rely on their wives, I think.
okay. What about if I worked in so what if I just finished school and I got a job as a substitute teacher?
Hmm.
Do you think I could make like you could pay rent and food and everything?
It's not that far-fetched.
Okay, I think we should all
I
move to
can't.
Germany. Makes more sense.
I
Uh,
mean, it depends where you live in and stuff like that, but now that I think about it, it's not the default that both, what's it called, that husband and wife work.
right,
And if one were to say my wife has to work and otherwise we can't, we can't live, then I would assume that they're students and working part-time or stuff like that.
right. Okay. But many places in the world, right? Many places in the world, that's how life is, right? That's how life is. Even I remember in Amman, it was like that. It's like people would like it's becoming part of the ada that you meet somebody and you're like, oh, what, how much, how much you're going to bring to the table, basically. He's making X, she's making X. Okay, now we're gonna live a certain life, particularly with people who are middle class, because again, the la'iq, what is a normal house for them and the normal things is much higher than for somebody else, right? Wallahu a'lam. So anyway, many people in the world, many people, uh, uh, are going to be zakat eligible because you look at this person and this person would, given their situation, they are not able to make enough money. Um, not able to make enough money, and so now we're going to say, well, let's look at this person. Now, again, when we say we give them the whole life, I think it mentioned it somewhere above. Um, you said that we're interested in giving. Here it is. So he says, وَالْمُرَادُ مَا لَا يَكْفِيهِ لِلْعُمَرِ الْغَالِبِ. What doesn't suffice him for a normal lifetime. أي ما بقي منه باعتبار الآخذ لا ممونه. Right? Looking at him and not the people he has to support. So when you say this person, for example, so so he does he make enough money to support him so when I say I'm going to give him the money to the end of the life, I'm not going to say, okay, I'm not going to say, okay, this person is making $4,000. He needs $7,000. So now he is a miskeen. I am not going to give him the $3,000 times 12 times his life, or 60 minus his life. I'm not going to do that. Because that difference is to do with his, it is to do with his the people he has to support. Maybe they'll all die. Maybe he'll divorce his wife and his kids will all die. So then in which case, why did I give him all this money? So I give him money for himself. So when I'm going to give him money for the rest of his life, that means for himself, right? Otherwise, you can't you can't give all that money. But let's say that's a disabled person. Here is this kid who is disabled, mentally disabled. He's reached puberty now, and he doesn't have anybody to support him. So now, how old is he? He is 12. We are now going to give him zakat for the next 48 years, right? So you work out, you say 48 years times whatever his expenses, I'll give that all to him now as zakat, right? That's fine, right? Go ahead, Talib.
Are these issues only in the books, or do these things happen? Like, do we give people 40 years of worth money?
Yeah, money, yeah. 40 years
It
of
does
money.
happen?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
point, yeah. So here's a disabled kid or somebody who doesn't have the ability to do that. You're going to give him, here's that money, right? Or the person involved in communal obligation, same thing.
I mean, like in our current world, like in some Islamic country, does this happen?
Does it happen? No, because there's never enough. So people are not going to give. But the thing is, you could. So why is it relevant? Because we're going to shift now to al-Gharimun, people who are in debt. Okay? So Badr is in debt for $999. And you say, here's $1,000. You cannot give him $1,000 in zakat because he doesn't owe $1,000. Right? Whereas the person who is in zakat eligible because of poverty, you can give him way more than he needs because you're paying towards his future. Does that make sense? So he needs $2,000 for this month. Here's $20,000. Here we go. Because he's going to need it for himself, for the definitely for in the next how many years. Does that make sense? So when you're giving zakat for people because they're poor, you can't unconditionally give more, but practically speaking, you're not gonna, they're gonna be alive unless they're like 60, unless they're 60 and but like somebody they're gonna be around for some time. You're always going to give them for this year or the next year or whatever it is, as opposed to debt. It cannot be more than the actual amount. Okay, where does that come from? إنما الصدقات للفقراء. It's for the poor, right? إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين, and it's for the unfortunate. It's for them. This money is for them. والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب, and towards setting slaves free, and towards paying off debts. Right? So there's a difference in the money is for you versus the money is towards that goal. Okay? Okay, so the next category then is al-Gharimun, the people who are in debt. Okay, and often people who are poor are in debt, right? He says, okay, al-Gharimun. So he says, what are the different categories of al-Gharimun? So he says, we have mentions 4 categories here of somebody who's in debt. Category number 1, I'm going to skip that. Let's mention it. So category number 1, there was a fitna between 2 people, 2 families. He borrowed money. He said, hey, I'll pay the blood money. I'll pay somebody said, oh, he owes me money. I'll pay it now, right? So this person who borrowed money in order to solve that problem, he's going to be given zakat because of the debt that he's now in. Somebody who borrowed money to provide food for travelers, to build a masjid, to build a bridge, to set somebody free, or general benefit, right? And he is given zakat. وَإِنْ كَانَ غَنِيًّا. So these two people, category number one, he borrowed money in order to solve a problem between people. He's given money. وَإِنْ كَانَ غَنِيًّا. Even if he has money. Somebody who borrowed money to build a masjid, somebody who borrowed money to whatever it is, this person is zakat eligible even if he has money. Right? So we don't say, well, you have the cash, why don't you pay it off? No, he got into debt and he has the cash to pay it. But even if he has the cash to pay it, he can still receive zakat because he got into debt for al-masalih al-'amma, for the benefit of others. Category number three, man istadana li-nafsihi. Right? Somebody who borrowed money for himself and he spent it in something halal, not in something that was needed, just something halal. A. Or B, that he spent it in the haram, but he's now made tawbah. Right? So this person is in money, is in debt because of drugs or whatever it was, or this person is in debt because he bought a Ferrari. Right? I'm mentioning this point just so that we have a picture. So it is not, oh, that you borrowed the money for his personal needs, his personal non-needs, just the fact that you're in debt. Okay, and so what then? This person is the fact that now this person is debt and does not have the funds to pay it. So he's in debt and does not have to pay for it. Now, there's two types of debts. Okay, ajil, right? One that is what's the phrase? Hal and mu'ajjal. Hal is now, right? And mu'ajjal is it has to be paid back later. So this person borrowed money from somebody. This person borrowed money from somebody. Whenever you borrow money from somebody through a loan contract, that debt is always hal, that debt is always immediate. So somebody who borrows money in that kind of way is immediately zakat eligible. So he just went and borrowed $10,000 from somebody. Even if they agreed to pay it back in 10 years, in a year, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. The point is, what was I going to say? That's considered hal. When is a debt considered غير hal, not immediate? When it is a product of a sale. So I'm buying my house in installments and I'm paying over 30 years. So that's not a dain hal, that's not immediately due, right? So that's something else. Okay. So yeah, that's the picture there. The next, that was category number 3. Category number 4 was similar to number 1. Yeah, it's not super relevant, and that's category number 4. Okay. So the point is, the first two categories, even if he has the cash to pay it, he still receives zakat. The other one is no. It's the fact that you don't have the cash to pay it. You borrowed money to, you borrowed money to buy a car. Now you're zakat eligible because you borrowed money, right? That's the point. So here's a question: should I send my money, right? Should I give my zakat to this person who just bought a Ferrari and now does not have the money to pay for it? or should I give my zakat to somebody else? Well, that's another discussion, right? We're talking about هل يستحقه, does he deserve it or not, right? Does he deserve it or not? That's the question. Is he in the category of debtors? He is a debtor, okay? But that's another discussion. Who do you want to give it to, right? Etc. But practically speaking, in my city, there are of the 8 categories, 3 exist. There's somebody who is poor, there's somebody who is faqir, somebody who is miskeen, right? Unfortunate, and there is a debtor, right? And the only debtor in my city was somebody who just bought a Ferrari. Can I choose not to give it to him? No, you can't. You have your zakat, and you're going to have to give it in your city on the relied upon position in the Shafi school, and you have to divide it up equally among the existing groups. And there's 3 groups in your city, so you're going to have to give it 33, 33, 33%. So you gave 33% of your $1 million. You had $14 million saving, so you gave $1 million away in zakat, and a third of that was given to this man who borrowed money to buy a Ferrari. Does that make sense? And you're thinking, but the question is, did he borrow money for the halal? It's halal to buy a Ferrari. And is he in debt? He's in debt. And do I have a right to not give it to one group over the other group? No. We mentioned that the relied upon position in the Shafi school is you have to give to all groups of those 8 groups that exist in your city where you are. And and you have to give equally between each group, and you have to give to at least 3 in each group if they exist. So now there was 4. I'm not going to give it to the guy with the Ferrari who's paying off his Ferrari. I'm not going to do that. That's fine. You don't have to do that. But if he were the only person, you'd have to do that. Now, here's a question. Why is that useful? Why is it useful that somebody could go and buy things and then get zakat? How is it useful to the world?
Afwan, can you repeat the question one more time?
So how is it useful that somebody can go and buy a Ferrari and then receive zakat for that? How does that help the world?
It promotes consumerism and
And
possibly creating jobs.
exactly, and possibly creating jobs, right? And so one of the key things with zakat is just making sure that money does not become stagnant, right? That's a huge thing, right? It's a huge thing in an economy, right? The economy is not stable, people don't invest, and then because they don't invest, everything goes down, right? So keeping a false sense of security and a false sense of profit is really important, because if everybody is pessimistic about the market, everything will fall apart, right? So this is one of these key things, is that, well, you have money sitting there, it should move. Okay, well, let's move it from here to over there, right? Just moving money around is important instead of it just becoming stagnant, right? So does it achieve a huge goal that's really important in the Sharia? No, it's not, right? On the lowest level, it's not that amazing, because you merely borrowed money for the halal. That was it, right? But it's much better than things becoming stagnant. I can't buy the car because I don't have the cash. If I get into debt, I won't be able to pay it, right? And so avoiding stagnancy, financial stagnancy, is very important. Okay, the next one is then travelers. Inshallah, we will come. And we'll come to this, inshallah. Any questions or queries? Oh, there we go. In Dallas, dual income isn't enough. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I was at yeah. I know somebody mentioned this to me. They said, they I can't imagine. I would imagine that they're bringing in something like something like 15 to $25,000 a month. And the guy mentioned to me, he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy a car and do churro, like rent out the car, because it's not enough." So 15 to something like 15 to 20, I think probably 20,000. I mean, that's before tax, but you know. Go ahead, Talib.
When I try to apply these rules in the real world, there's always one question that comes up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we make sure the conditions fit? Like, for example, do I have to, for example, have yaqeen that a person that can't work, is busy with, I don't know, fard kifaya, doesn't own this, doesn't own that, and so on and so forth. Like, how do I assert these things? Do I
Yeah,
give
you
people
have to
like
be.
a questionnaire, like
Yeah.
they have to fill it out?
Yes, you have to be very, very careful about it. So even if it's awkward, you know.
hmm
So
And
yeah.
maybe for the Tauba thing, like someone buys, let's take the classic example, someone buys a house with a ribawi loan and claims to have repented for it. Like, what do I do with that?
So look at the qara'in. So now they look at how they live life, what they've done, have they changed, does it look, so I mean, are they going to do it again, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it doesn't have, they don't have to be, you have to become an angel, but you do have to be careful, because it's like imagine, for example, I'm going to send you money, okay? And you say, well, this is, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter as long as it gets to somebody in Europe, that's good enough. It's like, Habibi, you're paying rent, sending this money across through different, international wire transfer. Make sure that the numbers and the names and the this and that are correct, right? Because it's somebody's money. The same thing as zakat. Zakat is somebody's money. So you have to be very careful. It isn't overlooked. The poor will not overlook it on today or on Judgment Day when you say, "Hey, I tried my best, but you didn't." You know.
Scholars mention things like whether one has to have غلبة الظن or yaqeen when asserting the situation.
Mm, so the issue is, where do we talk about that? Is when we talk about ibadah, right? So like, oh, let's say for example, um, do I the هل يكفي غلبة الظن so let's say I'm making wudu, and I have to have yaqeen that I did each limb, but I just have to have غلبة الظن that I did the isti'ab of it, like that I did the whole of the arm, right? So this is because I'm talking about my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the default with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is musamaha. That's not the case in zakat. The default in zakat is mushaha, is that they're going to take every right that they have. So basically be as careful as you can, even if it's awkward, and if you feel the person is going to be too embarrassed or it's going to be too awkward, then don't give it to him. Don't ask him the questions, and then don't go down that route. Find somebody else. I think there's lots of people you can find in the world who'd be definitely zakat eligible. I don't think it shouldn't be too difficult to find. But the issue is, classic thing is like, oh yeah, my uncle in Turkey, right? And the guy actually has all this property, and then or it happens like that. Wallahu a'lam. Khair. Any other questions or queries? So when are we all moving to Germany? It seems like a place where people can actually financially live.
Hopefully, subhanAllah, I didn't know that Germany was so amazing. I think we have to catch up here in the
Inshallah.
stateside if that's even possible.
Inshallah. Yeah, what was this?
The grass is always